So now that we've talked about how theater interacts with society, we're going to look at theater and the choices that you have in North America. So, theater versus theater. Theater with an R-E refers to the art form of theater. Theater with an E-R refers to the place. Now, we are loosey-goosey in art, so oftentimes people will try to be fancy, like if you go to a movie theater, like AMC movie theaters, they will spell it with an R-E in an attempt to be more fancy, I suppose. But they are the place. They are movie theater. So you have in Kansas City, for example, the Kansas City Repertory Theater with an R-E is a company of people who produce the art of theater, and they perform in the Spencer Theater with an E-R. That's the place. And, it's a little confusing, but we'll get the hang of it. So professional theater is what we're going to look at first. It is created by individuals who make a living, or at least attempt to do so, in the theater. Basically, professional theater is if you get paid to be an actor or a designer, a director, any role in a professional play, you get paid for your work. So there are different types. So we have commercial, which is meant to bring investors a profit. It's like a typical business. Most businesses are commercial businesses. We have our highest in the United States is Broadway and Off-Broadway in New York. You're probably familiar with The Lion King. It's one of the longest running Broadway shows in the United States. It tours all around the world still. It makes the investors quite a bit of money. You have also what are called resident or regional theaters, and they are nonprofit organizations. So what that means with any sort of nonprofit organization is that all the income is put back into the theater company and not given to an investor. There aren't any investors, there are donors. So because there are no investors, these theaters can receive grants and donations. And usually if you are a donor, you'll get a tax receipt, so you can get some of that back. But you guys probably don't worry about your taxes quite yet. And then we have amateur theater. So amateur theater means that you're doing it for fun. You are not a professional. Two types of amateur theater are educational theater and community theater. Educational theater is performed in connection with a school. Now, that does not mean that if the play is educational in nature, that it's educational theater. You can be a professional company, but be performing something for schools. But all the people doing that are making money. Whereas in educational theater, all the people who are performing and designing are learning in some sort of capacity, usually with a school. So, yeah. And then you have a community theater that's created by residents of a particular area who come together to create theater without being a part of a larger institution. So you have different examples around here would be Theater Atchison is a community theater, the Barn Players, Olathe Civic Theater are all different examples of community theaters. And then you have hybrid theaters, is what your book calls them. They're small resident theaters that employ mostly professional artists. They are not as big as regional theaters. In New York City, they're called Off-Broadway. Some examples of hybrid theaters in Kansas City are the Unicorn Theater, Kansas City Public Theater, the Fish Tank. And those are the types. So that was a pretty easy go of Chapter 1. I'll be back for Chapter 2.